Victorian households could be separating rubbish into 6 bins to help solve the state's recycling crisis.
It's just one proposal from an interim report by Infrastructure Victoria. Toby Brennan researched overseas solutions to the recycling problem for the report. He joins us now along with Alyssa McNamara, who's the project director at Infrastructure Victoria. Thank you both for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Alyssa, I think that it's important just to outline exactly what the crisis in Victoria is in particular at this point in time.
Well, Victorians are generating more waste than we ever have before. We've got more recycling than we can process in Victoria, and we've also got food waste going to landfill where it causes environmental problems.
And there's been the issue that one of the large recycling companies here has gone under, which has really added to the problem.
Yeah, so they were actually contracted to take about 50% of the state's kerbside recycling, and rather than reprocessing it, they were exporting it for reprocessing, and because that has broken down, that's why we're seeing issues in Victoria.
Now, Toby, you've been looking at overseas solutions to this problem, particularly what happens in Wales. We've been talking about this a fair bit on the show already. Tell us about how the Welsh deal with recycling.
Yeah, look, Wales is a really interesting example, and I think it's quite a good analogy for Victoria, actually, because it's a similar size, slightly smaller population than we've got here in Victoria. But Wales has really vaulted itself to become one of the world's great recycling countries. So they're a top 5 recycler globally. And the whole range of policies and approaches have contributed to that. There's no silver bullet with recycling, and it takes time. That's 20 years of work in Wales. But a couple of interesting aspects of the Wales example, and one is fixing the front end of the collection system. So I think, you know, in Australia and in Victoria, most of us have become used to this commingled recycling, where we take our glass, our plastic, our paper and our metal, we shove it all in one bin and we stick it out every fortnight.
It's easy.
It's easy. It's very convenient and it's definitely increased the recycling rates, but we've prioritised quantity over quality. Because the problem is, how do you then pull apart those different types of recyclables in order to process them? It's much harder and more expensive than it looks.
Well, and not very well. And we've seen a lot of contamination, which has been really the issue, hasn't it, with glass in particular?
Exactly. Some glass breaks, suddenly you have to throw out those recyclables. So as much as 25% of that recyclable stream ends up going to landfill because of contamination.
OK, so 6 bins is the go in Wales. How does that work?
6 bins. Well, the first thing is we're not talking 6 large wheelie bins. Let me be clear about that. We're not going to have residents pushing wheelie bins back and forth every day. So the Welsh have come up with some innovative solutions to deal with this, but the basic principle is that if residents separate their waste more, their recyclables more, before it goes out on the curbside, then we get cleaner streams which have a higher value, which increase the quality of the system and improve the economics of the system.
Could that work here in Australia, Alyssa? Victoria in particular?
Well, certainly we believe that households need to do more separation at home. We haven't got to the point of recommending 6 bins yet, but certainly we need to look at separating our food waste from what would go to landfill or something that can't be recycled, and also potentially separating our glass from our other recyclables.
So we've had a lot of people getting in touch already. George says, I already have 3 bins which take up my whole front porch in inner city Melbourne. No thanks. What is the appetite that you've ascertained for more bins and more proactive recycling actually in the home?
Well, our research has found that 90% of Victorians are willing to change the way that they sort their waste at home.
Right.
Whether or not that goes into more bins or, like Toby was saying, more of a stackable crate system so we can have more separation of those materials, but it doesn't take up more space.
It's all about a public education campaign, Toby, I guess, if it was to ever roll out anywhere in Australia.
Exactly. And as I said, this is not a problem that you solve overnight. I mean, Wales has spent 20 years educating residents, improving its systems. But, you know, it's worth remembering as well that this is actually how recycling started in Australia. I don't know if people can remember that far back, but when I was young, we did have separate crates. We had a paper crate and we had a container crate. And then it's somewhere along the line...
Roll the look, Toby.
Somewhere along the line, we went into this single stream approach, which has created a lot of the problems that we have now. So in some ways, this is a bit of a back to the future idea.
OK, well, other countries can do it. Maybe we can do it as well with the right education campaign. It's really interesting and it is a big issue for our country. So thanks for coming in and talking to us about it today.
Thank you.
Thank you both.